The most prolific manager, Paul Heyman. I love when I see you getting picked up and slammed through the table.
Well, why I did it is because that's what the story needed.
What about you ad-libbing John Cena's theme song?
Because I went up to John and I said, my retort's a little unconventional. And he goes, I'll react to it naturally out there. I said, you sure you don't want to know this? And he goes, you can't see me and I can't hear you right now.
That's amazing.
And he walked away.
My version of you deserve it is you still suck. I love when they say that.
Yes.
I do suck.
And well, from what I understand,
What did you do to look that disheveled?
Didn't shave for several days, didn't wash my hair for several days. Like, I wanted to walk in when people going like, yo, come here a minute.
And then you ended up being with young Undertaker, young Steve Austin,
yes.
Mick Foley.
Anybody that follows this industry knows that I am the GOAT and that it should be acknowledged and accepted and respected and worshiped.
What's going on right now?
What's going on?
How you doing?
How you doing?
How you doing? How you doing, Paul?
What's up?
yeah.
Well, hey, how are you? What's up?
What's up,
You're
Paul?
definitely from New York.
How's it hanging?
No, I can't say that on this podcast.
You can't?
Nah.
Why?
Just you can't say that.
You can't say how's it hanging?
I would prefer you use different verbiage.
Are we going conservative?
No.
Are we rolling?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here scratching my eye.
What's going on with your eye?
I don't know what is going on with my eye. I didn't know we're rolling. Can we start over?
No.
No,
You gotta understand.
We're just gonna roll?
Yeah, because you have to understand this is the chill nature of the show.
I'll tell you what.
Pretend these cameras aren't here.
But so why'd you tell me to open with how's it hanging?
No,
You said, listen, no matter what, when we start rolling, please say how's it hanging. That's how I want to start the podcast.
You said that.
And I was like, you really want me to say that? It's such a vulgar term. And you said, yeah, fuck anybody that doesn't want you to say it. Just go ahead and say it, because when I go, and the choose to say how's it hanging. Well, then let's start over.
Paul, we're gonna have to.
Well, then maybe.
She FaceTimed me twice the other day, 4 a.m.
Well, then maybe we should start over. In 3, 2, 1, and begin.
Welcome back to Impulsive, the #1 podcast in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening, watching, viewing, subscribing. If you're not any one of those, hit that subscribe button. Guys, we have the most prolific manager in sports entertainment, one of the best storytellers of all time, and the man who is probably the most knowledgeable in terms of wrestling in the history of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, his name is Paul Heyman.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you for not saying it along with him and ruining my own shtick when I do it live.
Yeah.
Widely regarded as one of the greatest managers and creative minds in the history of professional wrestling.
I'm not flattered by that at all.
Well,
I'm not flattered by the
by
one. No, it's the one of. You're both in. Well, I know you are. You just had a baby. You're both in committed relationships now, right?
Yep.
So if your significant other wakes up next to you and says, "You're one of the best lovers I've ever had,"
One of.
is it, "Hey, honey, we're spending the morning in bed," or is it a call to the divorce lawyer?
Yeah.
One of is not flattering at all.
So-
the object is to be the greatest.
What do you have to do for them to change this Wikipedia from one of the greatest to widely regarded as the greatest manager and creative mind of all time?
Well, that's if anybody takes Wikipedia seriously. And when they write one of as their credentialed biography of Paul Heyman, it immediately kills their credibility. And anybody that follows this industry knows I'm not one of anything, and that I am the GOAT, and that it should be acknowledged and accepted and respected and worshiped. And then when they read Wikipedia and it goes one of, they look at that, and I'll say it into that camera right there, they go, fuck Wikipedia.
Yeah.
And if Wikipedia would like to unfuck that fuck, then they are welcome to change that biography into what is historically accurate.
Yeah, 100%. You are the GOAT. Just got
100%.
inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Congrats.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
You.
For sure.
They'll never give me that platform again.
Yeah, you definitely you gave it your all out there.
Well, I mean, if we're going to do it in Philadelphia, and that was one of the impetuses. Impeti? Is that the word?
I don't know. I like it.
Let's say impeti. Let's make up the word.
Yep.
If that's one of the impeti of putting me in, well, then, and that I told them up front, if you want me to do this in Philly, it's not going to be family friendly, PG, Paul Heyman, the wise man. Oh, well, thank you so very much, and I acknowledge my tribal chief. This is you can put me in Philly, we're going for it. And they were all like, yeah, that's what we want out of it.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. The crowd started chanting, "You deserve it," which, by the way, must be nice. I've never gotten that chant. But then you said, "Yeah, you're damn right. I fucking deserve it."
Yeah, you're fucking right. I deserve it. Yeah. And it's funny because I had no idea how to open. I winged the whole speech.
What do you say to people who say you aren't very humble?
But I think there is a lot of humility in what I offer as self-presentation. But I also have a lot of self-awareness, and I understand the I don't know if the enormity is the right word, but I understand the legitimacy of my body of work, and I understand the opportunities that I've had and the blessings I've had, and I've been able to exploit. But I mean, I learned about humility this way. When I was 7 years old in 1973, way back then, Willie Mays came back to New York to play one more season for the New York Mets because he had started his career with the Giants, who were then in New York. And my father said, "Come on, I'll take you to Shea Stadium. We'll go watch Willie Mays play. You got to see this guy. He's seamless. He makes it look so easy." And it was a great game, and the Mets won, and it was a big celebration. We get in the car, and we're driving, and I'll say gate 6. I don't really know what gate it was, And I said, "Oh, look, gate 6. Let's go over there." And my father says, "Why?" I said, "Well, that's where the ball players come out. They get on the buses there, and well, let's go say hi to." He says, "They're done. They've done their job. They've plied their trade. They're going home now." And I said, "Yeah, but we get to wave." And he goes, "Why? Why would you give a shit?" I said, "Because they're the ball players." And he stops the car and he pulls up, because he had a stick shift, and he pulled up the emergency brake, and he says, "Let me explain this to you. They're the same as everybody else. Doctor, lawyer, garbage man." Back then there were toll collectors, at the bridges. Toll collector, telephone operator, school teacher, guy at the deli who cuts your meat. He says, these guys just happen to do what they do in public. He says that at home, they got someone else bitching at them. They got kids that don't listen to them. They got dogs that are going to bite the neighbor. He says, and when they go to the bathroom, he says, and they wipe their ass, their finger's going to go through the toilet paper and get shit on it just like you and I get.
Just like everyone else.
He says, so stop looking at them like they're different than anybody else, because they're not. And I just never looked at celebrity the same way. So I have no problem expressing my belief in what I've done with my life, and the accomplishments I've been a part of. But at the same time, I also realize I'm just like everybody else. My finger slips through the toilet paper and I get shit on it sometimes.
Yeah.
So I don't I take the work seriously, but I never take myself seriously.
So you said a phrase there that I liked. You said legitimacy of your body of work. And I actually want to talk about that for a second, because Paul, like, now that I'm in the wrestling business, I understand like how prolific that body of work you describe is, and I see it, and I see your brilliance every Friday or Monday when I come to Raw or SmackDown.
Thank you.
But as an outsider, I'm not sure they would really understand the quote unquote legitimacy of your body of work. That the 40 plus years that you've been working in the wrestling business to make it what is now like the WWE, like a $4 or $5, $6 billion company. Like you're at the helm of the few creative minds that are driving the stories and the glue behind what's making the conglomerate so great. And so I guess my question is, for an outsider, how would you describe what's going on with Paul Heyman?
Well, and this is where the humility would kick in. I really don't know how I would describe it or if I'd even be inclined to describe it because there's a part of me that says, in terms of the public, I only care about what they see within the character and how I support the presentation of the stories that circle around the tribal chief Roman Reigns. And if I'm solely judged by that in terms of the public, then that's fine with me. What I get to do, which is an equal passion, totally an equal passion, what I get to do backstage in working with anybody, you, Braun Breaker, Rhea Ripley, Damian Priest, Gunther, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, you name it, just and people who don't have the benefit of 40 years within the industry, and just saying like here's a simple thing. You said before, no one has chanted at you, you deserve it. Now, having seen how hard you worked to get into the ring with Roman Reigns, and how and the elevation of your understanding of this industry in getting into the ring with Roman Reigns, because you could have made the biggest star in the entire industry, especially at that moment, let alone now, not look as good if you weren't the proper dance partner. If the rhythm is off, the match doesn't come across as great. And he can sit there and do this to you all day long, but it's not an interesting match. If we kept building up to that one lucky punch, that one lucky punch, that one lucky punch. And if you threw the punch like this, holy shit, it would have been terrible for all of us. And having witnessed how much you deserve it, my first thing that I would say to you, if we're sitting in that little cubby hole I've created for myself now in Gorilla, is then you're doing your job right. Yeah. Because if they start to appreciate what you do, if they start to appreciate how good you are, if they start to appreciate what you do bring to the table, then you're not presenting yourself as a villain in a great enough fashion that they're ignoring all that it takes for you to be that villain. And you're presenting yourself as one of the truly hateable villains in this industry to such a degree that they ignore what it takes for you to be you. That's a compliment to you. That's a compliment to your body of work right now. I would never look for that. In fact, as a villain, as a heel, if I'm out there and I'm in the middle of just driving that point home, and they go, "You deserve it," I'd be like, "Motherfucker, I'm going to do everything I can to just get on that person's nerves."
My version of "you deserve it" is "you still suck."
Yes,
I love when they say that.
Yes,
I do suck,
and well, from what I understand,
we've all seen the Twitter video a couple of years back.
But I mean, if you're standing there and you go like this, and they're booing you out of the building before you ever say a word, that's high praise.
So Paul, now I understand that, but I guess this gap I'm trying to bridge, because I come from the outside world, and now that I'm in it, I understand it. And when I was outside, I didn't. The casual sports fan, I don't think understands WWE. I mean, you know what they say about it, right? And it's because John Cena told me. He goes, if someone insults wrestling or calls it fake, it tells me that you don't know anything about the business and about the magic of the stories we're telling here, right? And this sport of it all. And so I guess I'm trying to weave the worlds, and I believe, especially in this new Netflix era, I think we're headed towards a more maybe hopefully global understanding of what our business is. Do you think that is true, and do you think we're headed in that direction?
Well, I mean, we're on the #1 streaming service in the world that is available all over the world. And when Elon Musk colonizes Mars, I'm sure the very first platform that's going to be available, other than X, is going to be Netflix.
Yeah.
In that capacity, At this moment, I've never worried about people that are not into what we do. Okay. I don't spend my time trying to persuade them, let alone convince them. No, really. You should give us a chance. You should see what we do.
Really?
You should see. No. I try to super serve those who are into us.
Okay, so I'm the exact opposite.
Well, yeah, but that's because you're an expansionist.
I see.
You're an expansionist. You're looking to expand the audience. And while I'm always looking to expand the audience, I'm also looking to expand the audience while keeping those that we have.
Fair.
Because the people that if you have a super satisfied fan base, they're going to bring other people in organically.
Yeah.
So I don't need to audition for those who, someone comes to me and goes, oh man, your shit sucks. Cool. Thank you very much. Go fuck yourself. But if someone sits there and goes, I don't watch it. Cool. Maybe you should. Yeah. My girlfriend or my boyfriend or my friend or my uncle or my grandfather always talks about it. Well, check us out.
Yeah.
It's the word of mouth thing. And now that we're, everywhere we've gone in the past month, I say, how's the house? How's the gate? We're sold out. What do we do? 1.3 million, 1.2 million, 1.4 million. We've been selling out everywhere.
Yeah.
We sold out Madison Square. I don't know if we sold out the Garden, but I know the Garden was 1.3 million. I know Chicago was well over 1 million. At TV, I know Houston was over 1 million.
Yeah.
I know the last TV was over 1 million. I know Phoenix was over 1 million. I know last night was way over 1 million. I know business is great, and then when we go overseas, it's even bigger because it's all these stadiums and everything else. You go to Saudi, you realize, oh my God, how big this is. Massive. I'm not, could we fill 2 stadiums in Saudi?
Yeah.
Or I know we can in France. My God.
Yeah.
What an audience to play for. So I would love to be able to expand that, but right now, if we just keep the people we have and let them tell their friends and their brothers and sisters and uncles and aunts and grandfathers and grandsons and everybody else.
Yep. Fair.
Well, it seems like that's always been the play with WWE. I think short of maybe you could compete with a Disney in terms of the best purveyors of product to the already existing audience. I mean, the WWE does it better than anyone. And so as you look at this new product and this Netflix push, maybe guide somebody on the outside like myself through the idea of why you would want to move away from a system that had been already working for decades and decades and providing the already existing audience in exchange for this more outreach event, which is Netflix and the ability to reach new eyeballs.
Yes to everything you just said. Yeah, it's a twisted morality play. It's a twisted morality play that is presented to the audience in an avant-garde performance art that so many people try to master, and at the end of the day, they realize when they try just how difficult this is. I've been around the business for 40 years. I couldn't drop an elbow or off a top rope or do a moonsault for the life of me. And I've been around so many people that can just say, let me teach you just how to twist your body around. And I'm like, I can't do it. And even if I could, I don't know if I'd have the balls to do it. Because these guys are up and down 100 times during a match. And every one of those bumps is life-threatening. First bump I ever took in his business, Bam Bam Bigelow took me down to the Monster Factory, which was a big school, still is, by the way, and props to them, shout out to them. Please send me a percentage of any new signups for this week, in New Jersey. And he says, oh, let me teach you, it's called the hard way. So when a manager's on the top rope, and he holds the top rope like, and he's yelling at the referee, and the guy comes over, pushes the ropes in, pulls the manager in, manager comes in like this. And he pushed the rope, pulled it in, I go up, I come down right on my forehead, knock myself out.
Actually?
First bump. Oh yeah, knock myself out, first bump.
Whoa.
Oh, like smelling salts, the whole deal.
Oh shit.
Oh yeah, out. I'm like, did I break my neck? And they go, nope, we don't know how you didn't. So I decided, well, I ain't gonna do that anymore. So I end up as a manager in my first match, and on the other side is Afa, the Wild Samoan, who is the uncle of Roman Reigns, and who was Roman Reigns even born? Roman Reigns was born. Oh my God, he wasn't even born yet. And then and Rodney Anawai, who was at the time known as Coquina and later on became Yokozuna. And this is when he was only 350 pounds and moving lightning fast. And we're in the back, and Alpha says, if he liked you, he called you son. He said, son, you want to take a bump in this match? I was like, yeah, Pops, whatever you want. And he says, want to do a backdrop? I was like, yes, Pops, I'll do a backdrop. You know how to take one? Yes, Pops, I didn't know how to take one. And he says, he goes, okay, don't boost. We'll place you. Okay, Pops. Of course, I'm sitting there going, I'm going to take the best backdrop in the history of the universe. Won't be one of the best backdrops. It'll be the greatest backdrop the business has ever seen. And he throws me into the ropes, and I come off the ropes, and they go, and I boost, and I go way up in the air, and my feet hit the top rope, and it goes, bam, and in the back of my head, knock myself out.
Again.
And I wake up, and he's slapping me like this. Son, wake up, son. Wake up, son. I'm like, oh, where am I? He goes, in the middle of the ring. I told you not to boost, son. Don't boost. Don't boost, Pops. Don't boost. And he's just slapping the piss out of me, waking me up. So first 2 bumps I took in his business, I learned real fast.
Yeah.
Man, this is dangerous. This is you can break your neck. You can lose your life in this business just like that. So I have infinite respect for those, let alone someone from the outside who comes in, but for those who ply their trade in this business at 100 times a night, up and down, up and down, up and down, because one micro inch into the wrong direction, you're screwed. You're screwed for life if you have a life. It's dangerous business.
Dangerous business. I also learned that really fast. It's my favorite to watch like the celebrities come in and you know, they kind of like are inspecting the ring. When we're all like there doing our thing, they come over and they inspect the outside of the ring and they hit it. And every time the reaction is the exact same. They turn to me, they go, yo, this is hard. I thought this was like bouncy. I'm like, no, man, y'all have no idea. I've been through everything that you're thinking. I understand. Personally, Paul, for me, your commitment to this industry is partially indicated by the bumps that you're willing to take. I love when I see you getting picked up by Solo Sikoa and slammed through the table. But I have to know, what makes you still want to commit like that? And also, what's going through your mind as you know, like, you know, you're about to get slammed through a table and you're not an athlete.
I'm not an athlete. I'm way out of shape. I'm 59 years old, and I love every single solitary micro moment of it. It's what the storyline needed, and my commitment is to the storyline. And that goes back to what you were saying just before about behind the scenes. You know, we have a collaborative effort behind the scenes. You know, but beforehand it was Vince McMahon driving the creative, and now it's Paul Levesque driving the creative. And Paul's a lot different than Vince, and Paul's a collaborator. So there's a lot of collaborators around, which means that he's a lot more open to ideas and especially long-term ideas. So when I get to work, you know, with a talent, it's such a blessing in my life because I love working with talent. I love being able to look at a talent and say, let me tell you where you're going to be in a year. Let me tell you what your understanding of this industry is going to be in a year. And helping them find the greatness that's inside them that they don't understand that they have. You know, it's like I remember once we crossed paths in Gorilla. You know, the follow that motherfucker, you know, moment. You know,
Bro,
you know?
Oh, that was horrible. I was like, what?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah, but you can. But you can.
Yeah.
And just knowing you now, and I knew you then, like when I just go, follow that motherfucker, and you're like, huh? You know, but I know that you can.
Yeah.
You know, and I wanted you to go out there with determination of like, okay, bitch, I will.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, and I did, and I will, but it's just like I'm still so new.
Yeah, but
you're the greatest.
but that's the point.
You go, come here. I'm like, he's gonna tell me some like magic words of wisdom before my match. And you go, follow that motherfucker. I'm like,
but those were the magic
And it
words of
worked.
wisdom.
And it worked.
Yeah, because it motivated you.
It worked.
You have it inside. You know, I sit with a Braun Breaker, and Braun Breaker looks at me and he goes, you know, well, this is the type of thing I'm like, man, you got no idea how great you are. You got no idea of the greatness that lives inside you that just hasn't matured enough that your brain tells you, I got this. No matter, Ric Flair is very interesting to me because I've known Rick for however many hundreds of years. And Rick and I will always end up, if we're talking about the art of the performance, in the same argument. Ric Flair will always say to this moment, to this day, the day that I'm nervous walking through the curtain, I'm sorry, my apologies. The day that I'm not nervous walking through the curtain, I won't go through the curtain. I know that's the day I'm done. And to me, it's exactly the opposite.
No way.
The day that I'm nervous walking through that curtain, no matter what's going on, is the day I know I'm finished. I'm more comfortable out there than I am doing this podcast.
We talked about that last night at dinner. We were talking about last night the idea of an actor who has these insecurities potentially in real life or self-esteem issues, confidence issues, whatever. Not saying that you do, but for some of these people, they do. As soon as they get the opportunity to turn into a character and be someone other than themselves, the way the audience reacts to that caricature no longer matters to them. They can take any boos, hits, laughs, whatever, and it doesn't affect them the way that it does affect them in real life.
100%. It's again, this goes back to humility. I know what a schmuck I am. I know I'm a schmuck. I know I'm just a guy that got through life never having to have a real job. And that's been my goal since I was a kid.
That's not true. You've never had a normal job, but your job is very real. You guys work your asses off.
You got to talk also about how you got in there too, because I read a little bit about it.
Before we get into it.
Okay, then the word normal applies here. I've never had a normal job. You know, like I don't consider the chairman of the board of Disney to be a real job. It's like you're in the entertainment business.
Okay.
This was all like, but the word normal is a better adjective for it. I've never had a normal job. Never wanted one. I've avoided it my entire life. So I understand what a schmuck I really am. But when the wise man walks out there, you know, when I go through that curtain, if I have a cold, I don't sniffle out there. Like I have this badass eye infection.
It just heals.
You know, but when I'm out there,
no eye infection.
I don't feel it. Doesn't itch. Doesn't hurt. Doesn't burn. You know, and if I can use it to my advantage to make it tear, it probably would tear more. If there was something on the show where I had to cry, this would have made it a lot easier. You know, I'll use it to my advantage. So again, out there, that guy. Anything for the show. Backstage, I understand. That's when I'm one of many.
You once told me that when you walk out there, you feel 10 feet tall.
Oh yeah, I'm Godzilla, man. I'm King Kong. I'm King, absolutely.
So that's crazy to me because, like, dude, you know, it's not normal to have 20,000 eyeballs staring at you, waiting for you to mess up or do the thing. Dance, monkey, dance. Like, we're all here to watch it. Like, entertain us. Like, please. That's not a normal feeling to be that person in the center of the ring. And when I first got into WWE, it was a little bit of like fake it till you make it, and at least appear confident. So much so until they believe it. And I got more comfortable doing it. And now I too feel maybe not 10 feet tall, but like 9 feet tall out there. But what is that thing in you that when there's all these eyeballs looking at you grows instead of a person shrinking? Like, why is that?
Because I was born to do this. This is what I was meant to do. Interactive music with an audience that then becomes part of the band. It's the only way. I had a, well, at least fascinating to me, probably boring to him, but I had a fascinating discussion, and unfortunately not while the podcast was rolling, with Rick Rubin. I did the Rick Rubin podcast after 2 days after WrestleMania, and We did it at the Shangri-La Studios in Malibu, and like you walk in the door, and like there's one engineer's walking down going, see you tomorrow, Rick. Rick goes, great. He goes, yeah, man, he's all tired. He was up with Pearl Jam all night long doing a new album. It's like, really? Wow, okay. There's some greatness in the air in this. And then you run down the list of people that have just played in that studio this past 7 days, and now you're doing this podcast with Rick Rubin. And I figured if anybody would understand it would be Rick. And it's all a rhythm to me when I'm out there. It's all music. If you analyze, and I don't encourage anybody to analyze my promos, but if you analyze my promos, there's a rhythm to it.
Yeah.
There's a music to it. Even ladies and gentlemen. Then there's the pause, and then there's I bring the voice up. My name is Paul, and it's just, it's the same rhythm every time. So they can be the chorus to saying it with me. And then as I say things, I hype. Then there's the pivot. Then we go harder, and then we take it home, and then we make them wait a second. And then we drive that last point home, which is the sale. And then boom, we're out of it. It's all music. There's all a rhythm, and if you can get the audience into, and I've studied like musicians that do this, like Bruce Springsteen does it live in concert all the time. Prince used to do it, and the audience did not. It ends up being Freddie Mercury in Live Aid.
You're a conductor.
Yeah, ayo, and it's just you're a conductor, and you're just part of the band. You just happen to be the one that has the microphone in his hand or her hand. It's all and that's just my approach to it. But some will also tell you it's method acting.
I really wanted to talk to you about this.
Sure.
So again, your commitment to this is insane, and part of the method acting is being willing to take the bumps and like actually get hurt. Like you're risking your physical health out there when you're getting slammed through a table. But one of the things that people were talking about on Twitter a moment recently was when you denied Solo as your tribal chief, and when you came out for that promo, your eyes were red, unkempt beard. Paul, you looked exhausted.
Yeah.
And I think the people who knew the story that you were telling perceived that look as stress. What did you do to look that disheveled, and why did you do that?
Well, why I did it is because that's what the story needed. Why I did it personally is because I'm not that good of an actor. I'm not. It's the old story, Dustin. The famous story about Dustin Hoffman and Marathon Man with Laurence Olivier. Dustin Hoffman was part in the 1970s, was one of the hot young independent method actors out of New York, all studying under Lee Strasberg or Stella Adler, and all following the footsteps of Brando. So there was Al Pacino, and there was Robert De Niro, and there was Dustin Hoffman, and there was Harvey Keitel, and there were all these brilliant New York actors that are coming, and they're all method actors. And then there's Olivier, the greatest thespian of all time, would do Othello on Othello would do Shakespeare in the Park, Othello in London on Saturday, and then he would do a Hamlet, Shakespeare in the Park on Sunday, and never mix up the lines. I mean, this is Olivier, for crying out loud. So they do the very famous scene in the movie Marathon Man, which was directed by John Schlesinger, where Olivier plays this Nazi dentist, this Nazi doctor coming to New York to get all the gold that the Nazis had stolen from the victims. And Dustin Hoffman, he thinks, knows something about when Olivier's going to grab the gold. And he starts to drill into his teeth. It's a torture scene, and it's just brutal. And for 75, it's a very graphic torture scene. So Hoffman took 3 days off, went to Studio 54, whatever nightclub was hot at the time, did a whole bunch of cocaine, smoked as much pot as he could, took a bunch of, this is not stuff I'm recommending for anybody to follow. Worked for him though. And he comes in and he's like, okay, I'm ready to do my torture scene. And they're all like, oh my God, what happened to you? Yeah. And Olivier pulls him aside and goes, what, how unprofessional of you to show up on set this way. And Hoffman says, we're doing a torture scene today. I don't need makeup. I haven't shaved. My eyes are bloodshot. I look like shit. Look at me. I'm a torture victim. I'm going to play this scene. I'm going to win all sorts of awards. And Olivia just took a step back and goes, oh, dear boy, try acting. You know? And that's it. I'm not that good of an actor. So I have to rely on helping myself get through that scene or through the presentation so that people look and go, this dude's really stressed out. So we're going to the Garden, and we had built this to where since the moment Roman Reigns lost the title at WrestleMania, Solo made his move to become the tribal chief. But at the Garden, it all comes together. Solo had never said, acknowledge me. We waited for that. So now we get to the Garden, and the week before is the first time he held his hand out. I had to put the mic in his hand. And I'm like, man, this is Roman shtick. I don't want to do this. You're not you shouldn't be doing this. And we kept on saying, by orders of the tribal chief. So we had that intrigue going on since the first Friday after Mania. Who's the tribal chief? Well, it's obviously not Roman. Is it The Rock?
Yeah.
Is it Solo? Is someone else pulling the strings? Is Heyman actually just swerving Roman? And but as Solo kept just bullying me, and I'm falling apart, and I'm not dyeing my hair, and my hair is going gray, and I'm showing up a little more unshaven every week, and my tie's not, and my pocket square is crooked, and my suits are not pressed. Oh man, this guy's falling apart in front of every week a little more. So at the Garden, he says, acknowledge me. It's like, oh my God, he said, acknowledge me. And now he starts turning to his crew. Tama Tonga, step up, acknowledge me. Oh my God, Jacob Fatu, acknowledge me. And as you're as you're going around, you're going, oh my God, he's going to ask the wise man to acknowledge him. This is going to be bad for the wise man. And finally, he gets to me and he says, acknowledge me. And the whole audience is like, don't acknowledge him. Don't, especially in Madison Square Garden, right? And he takes the step back and he goes like this. And for the first time now, he says, acknowledge me as your tribal chief. And it's like, oh my God, there's no way. Even Heyman can't be so sycophantish in the moment that he's going to buy himself out of trouble. Even Heyman has to have the balls to stand up to this. And then, as if that's not bad enough, Jacob Fatu hands him the Ula Fala, which I know is Romans, which is where I wanted to start crying, like, oh my God, where did you get this? Now, if I had a good night's rest, I had a nice meal in the morning, and I got a little sweat going on in the afternoon, and I warmed up, and I'm clean shaven, and my suit fits perfectly, and you just feel right walking out there in Madison Square Garden going, yo, I'm Sinatra. I feel great. That's hard to cry. But if I've been up for an entire night or a night and a half, or if I got 90 minutes sleep and I intentionally woke myself up.
Is that what you did?
Oh yeah. Didn't shave for several days. Didn't wash my hair for several days. Again, letting the grays more grow in. Took the stuff that, washes the dye out of your hair so that more gray is shown. Like, I wanted the aging process for a week to be really defined. Ate like shit the whole week, like stuff that would upset my, I intentionally ate things that I knew, like if there's spices that don't agree with you,
yeah, I
ate those. Just so my skin color was off, wore no makeup, intentionally wore a suit that didn't fit me as well.
Yeah, Paul, you look like shit.
Yeah, that's exactly like I wanted to walk in when people going like, yo, come here a minute.
This okay?
Are you good, dude?
You're okay, right? I wanted the whole thing of, oh dear boy, try acting. And therefore it wasn't difficult for me. So when it's time for me to say you're not my tribal chief, and I'm in tears, I'm bawling. It's easy for me because number one, I feel awful.
Yeah.
I just feel like crap out there. And yet you have the adrenaline rush knowing, because you know that we could feel the audience was with us. And you just go like, oh my God, here we go. We got him on this. Okay. Give them everything I got. Give them everything I got. So gave them that, knowing then the next step is we're going through that table. But I had to go through the table. If I didn't go through the table, if they don't abuse me.
Yeah, there had to be repercussions.
But not just that. If he just spiked me and then Jacob Fatu splashed me, well, that's everybody. But taking somebody who is obviously, pushing 60, taking someone who's obviously out of shape like I am, taking someone who shouldn't go through that table, and violently putting me through the table. And those guys knew, I want to go, this has to be violent. This has to be shocking. Like, you got to sit there and go, someone's going to save him, right? There's no, and when you look at it, you go, dude, he went through, he got put through that table.
Did you boost?
No, I did not. No, I did not boost. No, and the thing is, I didn't have to. Jacob Fatu was like, you go through that table, man. And that was the thing. And there is it's what the story calls for.
It was riveting. It's one of the coolest things for me now as a peer to watch from home, and like I'm glued. And when I was watching all that go down, I acknowledge that you are not my tribal chief. I went. Like all the millions of fans at home watching, I'm like, no way. And then I knew something had to happen.
Yeah, but what price won't you pay for greatness? What price won't you pay for that moment?
Yeah, you're asking the wrong guy. I'll do anything.
But that's it.
I'll do anything.
But that's what I'm saying. That's the commitment. Well, you and I have had a conversation without revealing confidential stuff and stuff that's private about what it takes to be at the absolute top of this industry. We'll leave it at that. And I just told you, it's a commitment like no other.
Yeah.
It's all encompassing. It's everything you got. Because when you get there and when you over deliver, when you exceed your own limitations in life, when you know you are only one of the best, but you want to be the best, one of the greatest, but you want to be the greatest. You can put on one of the most compelling performances of the year, but that's not good enough for you. You want the most compelling performance of the year. Then that's the commitment that the role requires, or at least longevity at the top. Look at the commitment Roman Reigns has made. Look at the commitment someone like CM Punk has made. Seth Rollins has made. John Cena has made. Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is the champion. If there's anybody right now, and my God, the business he's a commerce facilitator.
Yeah.
He sells tickets, he sells t-shirts, he sells weight belts, he sells replica title belts that he signs. He drives commerce. Cody, we need you in Detroit. We're at 98%. We really want to sell out. We're going to book you on 3 morning radio shows starting at 6 a.m. in Detroit. Great, I'll be there. If there's any others overnight, I'll do the overnight radios too.
Yeah.
I'll do the afternoon drive time radios, and then I'll get to the arena in time for the show.
Yeah, he's a workhorse.
My God, man. And he does it on his days off too. The commitment that he has to promote the product, that goes along with it too. So it's all about finding I try to find the greatness within people and help them understand themselves and understand how to bring it out of them. That's what a director does, or producer does, or whatever a wise man does. And I do that with myself. I understand I shouldn't go through that table. I get it. I had no business going through that table. That's why I had to go through it.
Yeah, of course.
You know, that's the commitment to the story. You know, and if the next thing that the next story that is in need of that sacrifice by me, that story is going to get it. That story is going to have me, and there's going to be nobody that's going to tell me no. Like nobody's going to say, you can't go through it. I'm going through it, because Solo had to do that.
Yeah,
he had to do something so grotesque. He had to do something so over the top. He had to do something so out of bounds. He had to do something to Roman's wise man to solidify himself as, on the night that he declared himself the tribal chief, is the night that he went overboard in every direction. And now they look at the box office he drives.
Yeah.
It was needed.
It worked.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you because like I want to let you talk.
No.
I could
What do
do
you
this
mean?
all
No,
day.
you should do it all day. If this was a crack dealer, I would be talking to him nonstop. You guys are in the same business. I guess
He is a recovering addict. He wrote a book.
he knows all
best-selling.
this stuff. We don't have to get into it. Mr. Heyman, let me ask you a question. As someone who does sit
Just call me
beside
sir.
Sir Heyman, son, as someone who sits next to someone who has this larger than life personality, the fanfare, was there ever a moment in your trajectory in your career where you thought to yourself, proverbially, metaphorically, I could be the fucking tribal chief?
No.
No.
I
know.
learned that on my first bump on my forehead.
I say that metaphorically. I guess what I mean, dialing it back a little bit, is like knowing the complexity of what goes on behind the scenes, what you give from a creative standpoint, from a business standpoint. Because I can resonate with that in a completely different world. I do a lot with a lot of creators and connect people, and Mr. Beast to this guy and this person, blah, blah, blah. Do you ever feel like you're lacking the flowers that you feel like you deserve, and do you care?
No, because I'm a supporting player. I'm not the star. And nor should I be the star. I can't carry a match. And ultimately what people pay for is for this storyline to be settled, this morality play to manifest itself into a moment that plays out physically in front of the world, which is why they pay to see it happen.
That, what you just said, is wrestling, is the business of wrestling. But it's a hard concept to understand. But what you just said is something that I believe appeals directly to human nature, and that's why people watch.
Yeah. It's and it's an easy morality play to follow, because and again, I'm going off on tangents here, but I always liked Better Call Saul better than I liked Breaking Bad.
Side characters.
Well, Breaking Bad had too many protagonists, too many good guys.
Yep.
And Better Call Saul was 9 out of 10 bad guys, all villains. So now you start to choose which villain you like.
Yeah.
Did you like Hector Salamanca, or did you like Tuco Salamanca? Did you like Walter White? Did you it wasn't part of the show, but did you like the concept? Did you like Saul Goodman? Yeah. Did you like Mike? Which is a hard name to like. I'm kidding. It is where all villains. So then you start to side with a villain. Did you like Gus? So now you're like, I see his point, so I like him. So the audience starts to see things in these characters that sometimes the characters don't even know that they're revealing. And they go, but I like that about this guy. Like, he could come in and he could say, I'm a recovering addict, but I beat my demons. And I see the demons in every single one of you. I'm so much better than all of you, and 90% will go, boo, screw you. And then there'll still be someone that sits there and goes, wow, his anger comes from a deep place. Once he gets past that, what a great story he has.
Could you imagine a world where I turn heel?
I was going to say you should.
Bro, I've thought about it sometimes because, like, Paul, I try to be like a ray of, I hate the negativity in the world. See, where we live and we exist is not WWE. We kind of like really teeter the gap between reality and this whole showbiz world. But I try to bring a little bit of positivity in a world where there's a lot of negativity. But maybe there's a place where I start calling people specifically out. Maybe it's other podcasters, streamers.
So
Would you ever manage someone outside of the wrestling space?
The wise man cometh and always seeketh other percentages. So, it's
we might need to talk.
We can schmooze.
Yeah.
We can out some people.
We've schmoozed before. That's the other thing too. Doing a show like this is like you want to cater to the audience that's watching this, which will be a primarily WWE audience. But like you also have a very wild or complex backstory of just who Paul Heyman is in its own right. Your family, where you come from, your parents. Like there's a lot there. Have you ever done a podcast? Have you ever talked about that type of stuff before?
Well, I mean, I know I talked about my parents on the A&E biography, and I talked about my parents. I don't know if I did it. I did to Brian Koppelman. He did the show Billions. I did his podcast. I don't know how much I talked about my parents. I talked about it a bit on the Rick Rubin podcast. I mean, I could talk about it here too.
Well, your father was in World War II.
My father was in the Navy in World War II. He's just a street kid from the Bronx, from Rochambeau Avenue in the Bronx, that ended up getting a law degree on the GI Bill, and became a lawyer. Was a lawyer, is a personally injury attorney in the Bronx his entire life. And my mother was a Holocaust survivor. My mother was from Łódź, Poland. Was in the Łódź ghetto. Ended up in Auschwitz, where she lost her mother and her sister, who were the only remaining members of the family. 13 of her cousins died in the ghetto. Two aunts, both grandmothers. The whole family was wiped out. And she ended up on the march from Auschwitz to Bergen-Belsen.
Yep.
With I should know this, and I hope I'm forgiven for not knowing the exact numbers, but however many people left Auschwitz, far fewer arrived in Bergen-Belsen, and was liberated from Bergen-Belsen April 15th, 1945. Came to America through HIAS, the Hebrew Immigration Aid Society, became a nurse in the Bronx, and that's where she met my father. And then they made the mistake of having me. So, but their personalities were very interesting, because she was the most fierce, ferocious individual I've ever met in my entire life. Just had no fear, and look what she had been through. So to her, there was nothing to be afraid of in life, except something like that happening again, which was all political, and my father was just the coolest dude in the world with the greatest sense of humor and a total smart ass who never raised his voice ever, except when he was in front of a jury and he performed, which is where I learned how to perform, which was watching my father in front of a jury and just watching him be like, okay, well, I got this. Let me go talk to the jury then. Ladies, and that's where I got the ladies. Well, the ladies and gentlemen comes from my father introducing himself to a jury, but also comes from news conferences. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Detective this guy, and this is the crime that I've been in charge of investigating. So it's always, ladies and gentlemen, my name is. So I always thought, if I'm going to do public speaking, I should always assume that nobody knows who I am, and this is first time. So, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman. But that comes from watching my father in front of a jury. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Richard S. Heyman. I'm the attorney for this person, for the plaintiff. And when I was Brock's advocate, that was a tribute to my father, because that was my father would press and press, and a judge would finally say, calm down, calm down. My father would say, Your Honor, I'm just an advocate. So when I came back with Brock, I was like, well, let me be the advocate, So that's how I felt my role was upgrading to. It was advancing to the evolution of the character.
I feel like I have to ask, because you've been dealing with some people who believe this, but
this is why I asked the question.
Yeah, I figured. Why don't you take it?
Well, I can. Yeah, I just didn't. I was trying to get into a deeper spot with you just to explore the complexities of that noggin of yours, Mr. Heyman. It's a great noggin.
Good noggin.
There's an ongoing tide on X, formerly known as Twitter, and other channels right now that is making an attempt to debunk the Holocaust. I don't know if you ever see any of this stuff or if you're privy to it. Number of deaths, number of camps, the true rationale for the initiative by the Nazis. Some people even saying that Hitler was more of a hero than a villain. Is there any thoughts or response you have to any of that goings on?
Can't control the narrative. And if the narrative is going to be allowed or encouraged on the platform, then that platform has fallen into the disinformation and the historical disinformation that I myself can never control.
Yeah, but free speech, they'll say.
Yeah, and I respect that to a degree, and at the same time, I also understand how it warps the authenticity of the historical facts that have been presented. And I also what's the old expression? And actually, this is something I'm sure one of the first steps that you had to go through in recovery. May I have the solace to
the serenity prayer,
right?
God grant me the serenity to
accept things that of which I have no control.
Yes,
using professional wrestling, or at least my personal experience of professional wrestling, as an example here. Okay. In 1995, I ended up taking over the complete ownership of ECW.
Yep.
And I'd already been doing the creative end for 18 months. Now I take over the whole company. My first move, get us on pay-per-view. Want to get on pay-per-view. Pay-per-view is the golden goose. This is where everybody is right now. We got to get on pay-per-view. Pay-per-view makes us real. Pay-per-view makes us established. Pay-per-view makes us mainstream. And we need the money. Okay. Could not get on pay-per-view. Would not take us. Bob Guccione of Penthouse had a son who started a competition fighting league against UFC, which at the time was owned by Semaphore Entertainment in New York City. Bob Meyerowitz, David Isaacs, Campbell McLaren, and a fourth guy who wasn't an owner, Michael Abramson. I believe that was, Michael, was it Abramson?
That's our attorney.
Yeah, that's our attorney.
Is it really?
Yeah.
There's no way.
Shout out Michael Abramson if you're
no
watching.
way to say.
We love
0%.
No, it's not. It's not humanly possible.
Same name.
Same name, but Semaphore Entertainment owned UFC and blocked in how many different states, could not get on pay-per-view. They were stuck on Dish and Direct TV, and the Gucciones came out with Extreme Fighting League, which again now the cable carriers started confusing with Extreme Championship Wrestling. So I'm trying to get on pay-per-view. I'm saying I'm just like WWE and WCW, but better. And they wouldn't take me. So our fans went nuts. And Cablevision was based in New York, and New York was such a hot market for us that they started picketing outside the Cablevision offices in Long Island. They would find out the fax numbers of all the Cablevision executives and the Cablevision complaints and everything else, and they would jam their fax machines. They would call and harass the Cablevision.
Hey, man, I got to ask you, I'm not going to cut you off too long. I cannot wait until I figure out how you spin this back to the Holocaust. I'm so fucking intrigued with where this goes right now.
What happened is that finally the audience itself that knew the truth,
yep, nice,
that understood we are just like WWE, we're just like WCW. There's no difference. We're not Ultimate Fighting. We're not Extreme Fighting. We're ECW. We're Extreme Championship Wrestling. We're just a more realistic, a more progressive, a more 18 to 34 male demographic oriented product than WWE or WCW. And they're going to end up copying us sooner than later anyway, which they both did. And Cablevision finally said, okay, we got it. We're going to clear ECW for pay-per-view, because we understand that the public sees this differently. We've listened to you. We now have looked at it. We understand the facts. We're clearing you. That's something to where an uprising against disinformation will work. When the masses rise up, then the platforms will listen. I'm one person that drives a narrative or helps drive a narrative or collaborates on driving a narrative within this industry. But on that platform, when you have an absolutionist like Elon Musk, and Elon Musk is the word absolutionist or absolutist? I'll say absolutionist. He's everything with him is absolute.
Black and white.
Black and white.
Which nothing in the real world is.
That's right.
Right.
So he looks at it and he goes, free speech.
Yep.
Well, honestly, this is damn near firing it. Nope. Free speech.
Ironically, this is one specific topic that, and he's been in some hot water regarding it, that he's not an absolutist on. I think he's pro fact on this specific thing.
And therefore it will change. And if it changes, it's because he's not an absolutionist on that subject. But here's how I spin that narrative back. With Cablevision, the masses spoke, and the masses changed the platform. Until the masses rise up and say, this is wrong, this is not free speech, this is not a violation of the First Amendment. What you are allowing, indeed encouraging, indeed enabling, is so psychologically damaging because it's wrong. It's historically inaccurate. Yeah. You are perversing a narrative. You are allowing history to change in front of people who know better. This is perverse, grotesque.
Yeah.
And history may be perverse and grotesque. Then tell it that way. And obviously, the crimes that were committed were far more perverse and grotesque than the thought of the disinformation that fights against it. But until the masses rise up,
I think it's going to be some time, because as we always talk about this pendulum on the show, the masses just rose up 3-4 years ago and said, hey, we're tired of absolute censorship on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So now we're going to create this whole new world over here where anything and everything goes. And as Elon has kind of presented X to be the new face of news, which is to me is wild, because although we have been lied to by mainstream news a lot, there is a level of journalistic responsibility that does exist that unfortunately you can't apply to 50,000 individual pundits on Twitter that are all posting for various reasons.
Right.
Money, clout, fame, hatred, biases, a million different reasons. It's going to be very interesting to see where it goes. It's just, I wanted your personal opinion on it, only because the only vow that came out of World War II, the only vow that came out of the Holocaust was never again.
Right, but never again is a very, very, very long time, and those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Here's another thing to take into consideration. There's very few survivors left.
Scary.
Yeah.
Very scary.
Yeah.
It's 2025. My mother would be 98 years old this year. And when she was liberated, she was 17 years old. And most survivors weren't any younger than that. Because babies were killed. My mother's sister went to the gas chamber in Auschwitz because she was 7 years old and therefore wasn't fit for slave labor. So there weren't many Holocaust survivors under 17. Let's say maybe there were few that were 14 or 15. They're in their 90s now. So 10 years from now, won't be anybody left. There'll be no eyewitnesses. I grew up in a household where I got to look into the eyes of someone who witnessed it, who was there, who experienced it. And hearing that story from that, like the greatest robbery my household ever experienced was the loss of my mother when my kids were so young, because they didn't get to really hear the stories and look into the eyes of someone who lived it. And that was a robbery of my children, having that experience to be able to tell their children so that it never again happens. But this is the course of the world. So because there's very few eyewitnesses anymore, now history can distort what truly happened. And especially as the world developed in the late 1990s going into the new millennium, everything became, and it's funny, I'm not plugging the name of, Extreme Championship Wrestling or the fact that we lucked into the name Extreme in 94 before it became in vogue, but everything in the world became extreme. Everything is very radical. The narrative, the centrists don't exist anymore. Very few of them, well, yeah.
I get called so many names, man. Fence sitter, fucking neutral, like, to the point you brought up in the very beginning of this discussion, everything online for clickbait reasons, for monetization, is black and white. Very few things, almost no things in the real world are black and white. They all exist within a complex gray area of emotion, empathy, love, life, problems.
Well, I think, Mike, this is partially because I try to understand and sometimes speak to human nature in ways that will elicit an instinctual response. And I think our species is generally a pretty simple species, or at least most of us skew that way. And black is an easy color to see, and so is white. It makes sense to me, and I yearn for something that's easy to understand. And a lot of life is not. And like you mentioned, nuance and the gray area is you gotta work a little bit. You gotta use your brain power to understand it. I want a title. I want a yes. I want to know. So I know.
It's what people want, but I like to root myself in reality. We live in a world where not everyone gets married at 21, has 2 kids, white picket fence, stays married until they're 80, has their parents with them the whole time, has a good, hardworking job, gets a 401k, their kids go to... That's not the world we live in. It's just not. We have veterans under bridges. We have people addicted to drugs. We've got people with mental health problems. We've got, even on the more, narrow plane of people that are doing well in their lives, they have problems. They've got distortions. They've got, issues that they deal with every day. And so this idea that there's any kind of real black and white nature to this life of ours is wild. But one thing that is black and white is facts.
Yes.
Well, they can't, even that is even that's so skewed.
Facts can be black and white in terms of what's true to history, but history is written by the winners, or now the creators of the platforms from which history will be taught. How much of the radicalization of these college campuses came off of TikTok? I mean, my God, man, it's again, that platform enabled a completely different mindset across the country to those being educated in the highest rated educational centers that we have to offer.
No,
bless you, young man.
It's bad.
Yes, sir.
It's bad.
Thank you for spreading your germs. Here's just an example. What was the hottest thing on Facebook just a few years ago to describe your life or your relationship as it's complicated?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's complicated.
And how much, and that was so easy for people. It wasn't monogamy, polygamy, abstaining. It wasn't that. It's always, it's complicated. It's complicated. And so much of life is complicated. Veterans living under bridges, etc. New York City taking care of the migrants that come in $400 a night hotel rooms, and meanwhile, New York City residents who just fell on hard times, couldn't keep up with the rents, fell behind in debt, then end up with a substance abuse problem on the streets, no hotel rooms for people who were born and bred and have lived in New York City, nothing. For migrants that come in from other countries, $400 a night hotel rooms. Boy, that's very difficult to grasp, to grasp, especially if you're a New Yorker, right? It's complicated. It's a complicated society. It's a complicated existence. You can't have a discussion, nor am I encouraging us to have this. You can't have a discussion in any room with people about gun control, about the abortion issue. You can't. Even about politics today. If you ask 5 people about Donald Trump, if you ask 5 people about AOC, let alone ask 5 people about what's Barack Obama's legacy, what's Bill Clinton's legacy, what's Ronald Reagan's legacy, the answers will be so varied,
dude. Even Lincoln and honestly, like the FDR, Washington. The whole vibe and opinion on things that used to be so universally believed to be truthhoods, everything's changing. Social media is a wild experiment, Paul. It's really wild. It's going to be very interesting to see where it comes. One thing, just to dial it back to you as we wind down, one thing I noticed about you that's I'm so envious of is the way that your brain works as it recalls things from the past. You're able to remember all the names of every person involved and bring up Cablevision and picket lines and what it felt like to go through the table and being smacked in the face and called son and pa. Because you were present for all those fucking things. We're only partially present 99% of the time.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
We're bro, if you asked us to really recount and recall a story like with vivid detail from, I don't know, earlier today, okay, you would get a weird half mush story. So what I'm getting at is it's going to be very interesting to see what 20 years from now looks like as people try to recount these years of social media becoming the norm.
But that's also because I have so many years of, well, here's an example. How'd it feel first time you held your baby? Bet you remember that.
He was on his phone. No, I'm just
hard to describe, but I bet you'll never get that moment of your life out of your head.
No.
How'd it feel the first moment you met Nina? How'd it feel the first moment you realized you're in love with Nina? How'd it feel when she said yes to marrying you? These are moments, and there'll be a time in your life where you're asked to describe it in a book, and in a podcast, and a documentary. You will have no problem just conveying those emotions, because these are the most wonderful moments of your life. Here's my blessing in life, and go again, full circle now in the conversation, going back to being humble. I'm the most blessed man I know. My children are healthy. That's the first thing in life. If you remember what I told you?
Yep.
As long as if you wake up in the morning, how's the baby? Baby's healthy. Everything else is relative. I don't like the script for tonight's show. I don't like the direction of this storyline. I don't like my opponent for the next premium live event. But my daughter's healthy.
Yeah.
My children are healthy. Boom. Everything starts from there. But I've lived so many lives. I've lived 19 years old, I'm working in Studio 54.
We didn't even get to talk about it.
But 15 years old, I'm taking photographs of Vince McMahon's father in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, because you snuck your way in.
Of course I did.
Crazy. You hustled your way because you knew that Vince McMahon Sr. dined at a steakhouse.
Yeah.
So you called the WWE and convinced them that Vince McMahon Sr. gave you the permission at the steakhouse that you were never at to give you tickets to the show that would allow you to go in as a photographer, as a press photographer.
Yes.
That's insane.
But I wanted to get in, and nothing was going to stop me from getting.
Figured it
And
out.
you're from New York.
Well, right there kind of tells you I'm a hustler. You know,
yeah.
You know. I mean, the name, the Heyman hustle happened because of a reason. I'm a hustler. You know, I mean,
you walking around backstage at 15 years old, not backstage, ringside, 15 years old, with a camera.
And you can see it on certain clips in WWE, like, oh, there's Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there are Andre the Giant matches, or Don Morocco matches, or Bob Backlund matches, you know, Sergeant Slaughter matches, and you see me ringside, you know. But the key was not to take the ringside photographs. The key was me backstage learning from these guys.
And then you ended up being with young Undertaker, young Steve Austin,
Yes.
Mick Foley.
Yes.
It's crazy to me, like just like how ingrained in wrestling you are. You're almost synonymous with wrestling.
Well, and again, so how many moments have been passionate, beautiful, wonderful, dream-affirming, life-affirming moments for me? You know, you'll have that in life, and believe me, if you are blessed enough to become a very old man like me, you'll sit back and they'll say, "What was it like when this happened on the podcast? What was it like when this happened? What was it like when his life changed? What was it like when your life changed?"
But you have to be present for him.
Yeah.
Because they're not with the stuff you asked him about, but we've together, separate, lived through a lot of moments over the past 8 to 10 years that qualify heavily for that type of, and we've never really, some of them haven't been processed properly, haven't been compartmentalized properly. One thing I do want to ask before we run out is, you talk about this catalog and inventory of events that you've seen in WWF, WWE, and I hate superlatives. He does too. On the show, we don't do it a lot. What's your moment, man? What's the moment that stands out to you that you think about and you still get sweaty palms or goosebumps, having witnessed it, having stood and bared testimony to this moment?
All of it. The whole thing. The whole thing. And the best moment hasn't happened yet, because if I think that if it has, I'd be off doing other things. I'd be writing, producing, directing movies. I'd be creating. I'd try to compete with Taylor Sheridan and put something on Netflix that would compete with what he has over on Paramount Plus with Landman and Yellowstone. I would take on some other genres. I would take some friends of mine in the music business and get into a studio and say, "I'll pay for the studio time. Let's just jam. Let's see if I can do the Rick Rubin and produce, even though I have no musical understanding whatsoever." I would do something else. All of it, and all of it with the expectation of, we can top this tomorrow, and 2 days from now we can top tomorrow. If it's, I mean, there are easy answers. ECW itself, getting on pay-per-view for ECW, the first ECW pay-per-view, the last ECW pay-per-view, the revival of ECW in 2005, and that one night stand in the entire show, Brock Lesnar conquering the Undertaker streak.
What about you ad-libbing John Cena's theme song?
There you go. See, and I can do. And the funny thing is, and I love John Cena, because I went up to John and I said, you know, I expect you to tear into us. He goes, "Oh, that's a good expectation." And then I said, "Would you like to know my retort?" And he goes, "No." And I said, "My retort's a little unconventional." And he goes, "Great. I'll react to it naturally out there." I said, "You sure you don't want to know this?" And he goes, "Nope." He goes, "You can't see me and I can't hear you right now."
That's amazing.
And he walked away, you know? And I was like, okay. And then, he just dug into us, and I'm just like, and walked away. And he comes to the back and he's laughing his ass off, tearing, but reaction wise, because he's so great, he reacted perfectly to it. But I mean, again, it's that. And by the way, all of these things, and I can tell you, how could I not mention simply sitting on the couch for the last 5 seconds of the SmackDown after Roman Reigns returned during COVID and we were heading towards, he was still the big dog. And I was still known as Brock Lesnar's advocate. And the camera pans out for the last 5 seconds of SmackDown, and he had hit my catchphrase, because he hit, that's not a prediction, that's a spoiler. And you see who was it? Adam Pearce. It was Adam Pearce gets a look on his face, and the camera pans out, and I'm sitting on this ratty ass. Vince was so mad because he was like, God damn, that's a terrible couch. Jesus Christ, what? They look like shit, but we did it live, And even though it was taped, he said, let's reshoot it. It's like, but we have no other couches. And where we're going to find a couch at, at midnight now in shooting this, and that was it. So we lived with it. But I'm sitting on a couch with Roman, and the camera pans out, and I hit the big dog's line, and I just said, believe that. And we're off the air. And so for 5 seconds, we end a SmackDown with Brock Lesnar's advocate on the couch with the big dog. Within a week, we named him the tribal chief. We named him the head of the table, and he had the title on him 48 hours later. I can't tell you that's not the moment, because the whole WWE universe at that moment shifted. That was the moment that completely changed everything during the pandemic, because that was the birth of the tribal chief. But that's not the moment either. All of these moments, my entire 40-year experience, is a moment. It's a blink of an eye. It's a blur, yet with details I understand. But I'm a junkie too.
Nice.
But one that doesn't want to recover, one that doesn't want treatment. I embrace my addiction. My addiction is the pursuit of topping. My addiction is to put in a body of work as a supporting player, as a collaborator on something creative, and walk by the mirror after the day is done and say to myself, follow that motherfucker. And then the next day, strive to do so. And the day after that, strive to beat whatever I came up with for the next day. It's just a pursuit of the future. It's just looking forward and never resting on your laurels. I don't want to be that guy that, I can't watch myself.
Really?
Oh, God, no.
Really?
Oh,
Watch
no
back
way.
the tapes.
You don't watch your tapes?
The first week. I'll study it the first week just to see how I did, what I don't like that I do, how I hold my body. Is my body language right?
Yep.
Javier Bardem has a great thing about acting in that he looks at in the script and he looks at the body first. He says, I don't read it for the words. I don't read it for the emotion. I read it for the body. How's my body going to react? If you're like you'll never see me do this.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, even the way my voice sounds now, lady, this is how you sound like Jerry Lewis, like lady, like this, but because it's King Schlong. I'm 10 feet tall out there, I'm 10 feet tall and I'm 14 inches flaccid, and some women like it that wide. I mean, I'm just out there. Ladies and gentlemen. And you just look. I mean, I'm standing like I have lats. Like I'm standing there like this, like I'm jacked, and I'm not jacked, but I feel it when I'm out. My name is Paul. Boom. Like that. But when I'm being confronted by a Solo Sikoa or a Jacob Fatu or somebody, man, the balls crawl up into your stomach. I mean, I literally try to teach this to people. If you're afraid, don't be like this. This is now. If you're afraid, you're not like this. You're afraid, man. You sink in. Everything crawls up inside you. You're like this. You turn your shoulder. You come away from. It's all about that. So the exhilaration to me in life is looking forward. I look at my body of work, And for the first few days, I'll study everything that I do. They're cutting cameras now a little differently.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to play to this side a little more. Oh man, they like this cameraman. He's coming up from. They like this camera angle. Okay, I got. How do I play to that camera angle that nobody else is playing to? How do I stay ahead of the rest of the curve? How do I get Roman to lean into this side so that they have this, because they love this camera shot? How do we give it to them? So I study it for the first couple of days, and then I can't stand watching my stuff. And I shouldn't. If I showed you one of your matches from 6 months ago, you'd look at it and go, oh my God, the power of Christ compels you. You Dominus Hominis, you'll perform an exorcism on it. You'll hate it, or you should, because you're so much better now than you were 6 months ago. If I'm not that much better, 6 months, let alone 6 weeks, let alone 6 days from that performance, someone's going to catch up to me. I want to be able to look back 6 weeks ago and go, ew. Now I know I'm progressing. Now I know I'm getting better. Now I know I offer something that someone 29 can't offer. Someone in better shape than me, full head of hair, gorgeous, wears better suits than me, can't offer. What I offer is unique, because I stay ahead of everybody else, because I don't want to only be as good as I was 6 days ago. I want to walk into SmackDown this Friday as my audition to be invited back the next week. Because don't judge me on my body of work. It's also why I introduced myself at the beginning, because it's like, hey, anything I've done before, take me for how I am now. Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul Heyman. We're starting today. So again, long story even longer, I can't stand watching myself, and I shouldn't be able to stand watching myself, because if I can stand watching myself, I haven't progressed enough to think it's passé, it's garbage, it's yesterday, it's trite, it's been done. Okay, that's cool. What's next?
Well, Paul Heyman, we could go for 7 hours if we wanted to.
Could we get it sponsored?
I think we're sponsored by Prime.
So that comes out of your pocket anyway. So, okay.
You're sponsored by Prime.
This lack of sponsorship is concerning to me, though.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
Paul, what an honor, man.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for coming on Impulsive. I marvel every second I get to speak with you. I think you are the wise man, which I wasn't sure at first when Roman started slinging that around. When I had my Roman storyline, I hear wise man. I'm like, what? He can't be that wise. So wise, so full of wisdom, man. And I look forward to just picking your brain and learning from you and growing this relationship as I continue down this path. But in this path right here, we appreciate your presence, ladies and gentlemen, Paul Heyman.
Thank you.
All right, brother. Oh, I also can't wait for you to meet my daughter.
I'm sorry?
My daughter.
Is she here?
No.
Oh.
No. No, just in general. I feel like you're her long lost uncle.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. All right, guys. That's it. What?
You can kind of, because you're just
Sure.
how, without maybe giving too much specifics.
Oh, we didn't. I don't think. Did we say goodbye?
How
Yeah.
do you go about booking Logan for the year? Maybe without the tease, without some super specific, but you're good at this stuff.
It all depends on other circumstances right now.
Yeah, this year's wild.
This year is wild, and here's the honest answer. If the question is how I would book Logan Paul in 2025, my answer is I wouldn't book him just for 2025. My question would be, who's Logan Paul's opponent for WrestleMania 42, which is in 2026? And more importantly, who's Logan Paul's opponent in 2027, which is WrestleMania 43? If we're just looking at who's his opponent for 41, which is this April, or 42, which is next year, then we're kind of narrow casting here.
Yeah, fair.
Then in an industry that has now enabled its fan base to embrace long-term storytelling, I'm capping you at 18 months. Oh, who's my opponent for 42? Wow, that's only 18 months from now. Who's your opponent for 43? And once we figure out who your opponent is for 43,
Work backwards.
let's
Yeah.
back tell that story.
Yeah, sick.
I never have written a script. No, I've never written a script or answered an idea without knowing the final page.
Yeah.
I write the final page first.
Yeah.
Here's the end. It may transition to something else, but here's how this story ends. Now, how do we get there? How do we milk it? How do we tease them? What's the intrigue? What are the other characters' dimensions that play off of this? How does this story affect all others? If you write it from the beginning and you project it out, again, that becomes a thing of it's complicated and it takes on so many different variables that you lose the focus of where you're going. If everything drives to this point, then you know the narrative that you want to tell. Yep. Then making sure Solo never said, acknowledge me before he said it in Madison Square Garden. Making sure he's never referred to as a tribal chief before making sure that all roads led to that moment, that 15-minute segment that just engrossed everybody because everything since WrestleMania built to that moment.
Yeah. Yep.
So I wouldn't book Logan Paul just for this year or till WrestleMania 42. I've screwed you if I did that. I've given you an 18-month trajectory and you got nowhere to go after that. But I give you a 2.5-year trajectory. If I take you that far out, my God, we know everything we're building towards. We know we can then create the pivots. And if something comes along that a new character rises and like, oh my God, we got to get him in with Logan Paul, or something else happens that changes the narrative, then it gets added to the narrative as we still go for that line up to 43.
See, fair. All right, ladies and gentlemen, his name is Paul Heyman. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for listening, watching, and viewing WWE. I'm coming in hot this year.
And next year and the year after, according to the 5-year plan.
Take it easy, guys. Peace.